Good morning. Welcome to today's webinar. Thanks for joining us. My name is Shauna, Director of Product and Client Strategy here at Evasys. And joining us today is Renee, who is our Director of Accounting here at Evasys. Welcome, Renee.
Hi, good to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited. I know you're really busy, and like everybody else that's trying to get ready to close their books at the end of the year and doing budgeting for next year. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for taking some time out of your day. I think that this conversation will be really valuable for all of our clients here on the line. And so just thank you. So we are talking, as I said, today all about year-end accounting, closing your books with confidence. As a lot of you know, Lou does have integrated built-in accounting. And what that means is that all of your transactions flow straight into your financials directly in Lou. It's built into the system. It's free with our enterprise plan. So we have that option, or we have the option of integrating with QuickBooks Online, any version that you'd like. So that's an option as well. But when we're talking about accounting in Lou today, we will be talking about the integrated built-in accounting. That is what Renee actually uses for our company here at Evasys to manage all of our financials. We run on Lou as a company. We use Lou's integrated built-in accounting. So any of like the features we're talking about, we'll be talking about that today. If you have any questions as the conversation goes on today, please ask them. Renee is definitely a wealth of knowledge, and we also have Shannon on the line, who's our panelist, and she'll be able to answer some questions as well. At the bottom of your screen on the right-hand side, there's some little dots that make up a box. Click on that, and then there's a button that says Q&A. You can type any of your questions in there, and we'll pause midway through the conversation and then leave some time at the very end for Q&A. So any questions, type them in the Q&A box at the bottom, those little dots. With that, let's get this thing kicked off. Renee, I just have some questions for you, some questions that have come from clients and people out there, and then some questions that I'm just genuinely curious about. So talking about closing your books at the end of the year, a question that we get a lot over here is about 1099s. How do you manage 1099s? Is there a way to do that in Lou? And then do you have any best practices that you're really passionate about when it comes to 1099s?
Yeah, absolutely. So 1099s are super important because they have a hard deadline. The IRS every year comes out and says, okay, you have to have your 1099 forms submitted to us by February 2nd of 2026 is the deadline that's coming up. So for anybody who didn't know, February 2nd is that deadline. So it's really important because it's regulated, and I think most people are aware of that. So in Lou, there's no function that directly like prints your 1099s, but we do have functions to manage the process to get those forms filed. And what we do internally is we set vendor types. So when you're setting up a new vendor in your system, best practice that I have for my accounting team internally is to request a W-9 when you're onboarding a new vendor, when you're getting a new service or anything, any kind of vendor that you have. When you start using their services, you should be requesting a W-9 for that 1099 filing. And so that really tells you what kind of company it is, so you can determine if the 1099 is actually required. And so that's required for partnerships and single member LLCs. And what we do when we get that 1099 and we're setting up the vendor in Lou, we use the vendor types, as I mentioned, we set a custom type called 1099. And so when we, at the end of the year, we'll run the vendor register in Lou, which will detail out all of the payments that we've paid that vendor throughout the year, which we use for our 1099 filing amounts. And that is, you can, even in Lou, use the filter option to just run that vendor register for 1099 contractors or 1099 vendors that you have. So that's how we do it internally, and it's been really easy at the end of the year to get all that done and maintain. And then I'd say for best practices, getting that W-9 is how you know if you have that requirement period. So annually checking on vendors that have that requirement to make sure that their business type hasn't changed, or other vendors haven't changed to now having that requirement is pretty critical for keeping in compliance with 1099 requirements.
Yeah. I think those are such good points, and that's so nice that in Lou you can just have sort of a custom report. There's lots of filters. You can put the filter on it and just gives you the information you need, so you don't have to do a lot of manual entry. And I think for 1099, something that's really a good rule of thumb, it's hard to get those W-9s from people. I don't know if you guys have experienced that. People aren't just like on top of it and sending those in when you request. It's a couple of requests. And I know in the past, we've just said, not us as Evisys, but in a prior life that I lived, we can't do business. We can't pay you until we have this information on file. So please make sure to get this information, because we want to pay you when you do business with us. So I know you've always got to put like a carrot out there just to make sure that you get the information you need, because they don't understand quite the importance of it. Thanks, Renee. I'd love to talk about just times for accounting, cutoff periods, if you believe in cutoff periods, if they're important. I know people sometimes have a really hard time managing closing their books. I hear that from people a lot. They're like, we want to close our books on time and we want to be regimented, but it just seems like the organization of other people in the company are limiting us or making it really difficult for us to close our books on time. So have you ever dealt with that, and how do you handle that from a practice standpoint?
Absolutely. Cutoff periods are a little, it's just like the next step from I'm running a business and my books are doing their own thing over here as I'm running my business, to, okay, now we need to button up a little bit, as our CEO likes to say here at Evisys. We're going to button up a little bit and we're going to start, making sure that we have defined periods of time that we're actually trying to close and do some of these reconciliations and that sort of thing. So the point of a cutoff period is to allow your organization as a whole to say, okay, we are closing our books now. So what I like to do is give everybody about 5 to 7 days after the period that we're trying to close to get anything last minute things you need in there. Vendor bills usually come later than when they're actually dated for. You'll have different things that you need to do, in the system in general that, you can't do everything all at once all the time. So having that cutoff period a few days after your actual period date close can allow everybody in the organization to just really get all of that stuff in, and you not have to worry about after having a lot of things that you need to go back and manually change. So that cutoff period, as long as you communicate that to your organization and make it a few days after the actual period close date, you'll find yourself in a really good position to get that enforced and people actually using it. And also in lieu, you can manually enforce a period close to prevent transactions from posting. If you find that people are changing things after your cutoff period, you can enforce it in lieu through the accounting periods actions, and you can just toggle off the period so it's closed, and it prevents anybody from posting anything new.
I think that's really important, because people in accounting, a lot of companies are a one-man band, maybe a couple people on the team. It's really hard for that voice to spread across the organization and for people who aren't in the department to understand the importance of it. So being able to lock it down, as I say, is really helpful. I have a question for you. What is your take on reopening accounting periods? Is it okay? Is it not okay? What advice would you give somebody on that?
Sure, I think it does come up quite frequently when I'm asked about when I get pulled into client questions and accounting stuff with our clients. This is something that comes up pretty frequently. reopening periods, restating periods. So why do you reopen an accounting period? You reopen an accounting period because you need to change something, right? So really, when we're thinking about reopening a period, it's going to be dependent on why you need to reopen that period. So for accounting and GAAP, for GAAP accounting, so this doesn't apply to any of our Canadian friends who might use IFRS accounting, but for GAAP accounting in the United States, you have to look at how material a transaction is, and that just means how much it is. Is it going to really impact somebody that's looking at your financial statements, whether that be for a bank loan, or you have an investor or a partner that gets your financial statements? The materiality of the transaction, how much it is, if it's going to impact a decision from somebody looking at your financial statements, you really should reopen the period and, you know, fix whatever you need to fix, post that journal entry to get your books accurate according to general accepted accounting principles. And then the next thing you look at is how pervasive a transaction is. So how many accounts does it touch? Does it affect your balance sheet and your income statement? If that sort of thing is happening, that's really when you'd want to reopen your period and make that change. But you also will likely have some after effects from reopening an accounting period. So it's not just updating your books. It could also mean, you know, reissuing financial statements to different people that you previously issued them to, amending your tax returns. There could be a myriad of consequences from reopening your accounting period. So it's definitely recommended to talk to a licensed CPA about restating or reopening an accounting period to make a change if you've already issued your financial statements in a period.
Yeah, that makes sense. And to me, those use cases would be something like you delivered a large big ticket item that didn't make it, you know, the transaction didn't finish all the way, didn't get invoiced or something like that. You know, that's going to affect your COGS, your revenue. There's a lot of different accounts that's going to impact. So that would
Inventory.
be
Yeah, exactly.
Probably a good scenario.
A great example.
Yeah. Okay, I'd love to pivot here. I think that's some really good information for the people on the line about closing your books at the end of the year. I'd like to pause and then we'll come back to that in just a second. But something I think a lot of our clients and people out there looking at Lou maybe haven't seen as much as they should is the redesign that we did to the GL. We launched this over the summer, and I know a lot of you guys on the line were really busy and you didn't have a lot of time to dig into it, but sitting with Renee and going through some of the really cool features on that GL redesign it's worth taking a couple minutes to go through it. So Renee, I know we're in a test database. You can't share our financials publicly, but can you just jump into like a test database with some inaccurate data and show some of those cool features?
Absolutely, I would love to.
Okay.
I'm really excited about our new GL. This has been out for a few months now, and I just love it. I had a few says in how this came out, so I hope everybody finds it beneficial. But this is what it is. This is what it looks like. So when you go into Lou Accounting and you access the general ledger, you're going to have, let me just show you here. You're going to have some of these filters that look all the same as they always have. So none of this has changed. The thing that has changed is now we have this view button at the bottom. So previously we could only export our general ledger to an Excel document or a PDF. But now we have the option to view it on screen. And there are some major benefits that come with that. And as an accountant, I live in the general ledger. This is where I do most of my work, my reviews for all of my team that is recording transactions, our whole organization. So this is really the most important thing to an accountant when you're closing your books. This is where all your transactions are. So the big change that we made is drill through. So you'll notice in the GL, when you look at it, you'll now have these little blue hyperlinks next to your transactions. And so I'm just going to click on one, and it's going to take me right to the source document that that transaction belongs to. So I can see everything I need to see about this transaction. And this really benefits you during your close, because you're just verifying things. You know, you're looking at records, you're saying that, does this look right? Just doing those double checks. So this really improved the way, the time that it takes to do some of these checks.
I have to say, Renee, just to pause really quick, you know, I know some people don't fully understand the importance of being on an all-in-one platform where everything is tied together. I know there's people out there that just have, like, you know, different systems segregated within their company. This is a huge benefit to being in an all-in-one platform where all of your transactions are feeding into your financials, because in any other situation you would have, you know, probably 2 monitors up. You'd have your GL on one screen and you'd be in your business management software on the other screen, and you're looking for those transactions manually. And if you add up how many minutes it takes to find those times thousands of transactions at the end of the month, this saves you so much time, and in turn so many admin hours that can be doing, you know, revenue generating activities. So I think that's a huge benefit of being in an all-in-one platform. I can't say it enough.
Absolutely. And just to share my experience, previous to Evisys, I came from a company that did use one software system, and coming to Evisys, before we had integrated accounting, we were using our Pro plan with the QuickBooks integration. And one of the things my accounting team that I was trying to pump my accounting team up for was, look, guys, we are going to be able to now use one system when Lou Accounting comes out. So when it did, we were the first to jump on board, and it's really been a game changer with time. Yeah, it takes me so much less time to finish close. My team, everybody involved, it just takes us way less time to close our books and to verify everything, because it's all in one system. And now, because I can drill through and I can see, you know, I can group and filter all of these. So if I'm in accounts receivable and I want to see different things by customer, I can group my accounts receivable into my customers, and it'll show me all of the transactions just for that customer, which is, it's amazing. It's very, very helpful. It saves a ton of time for sure.
That's incredible. Anything else on the general ledger that you want to point out before we switch gears?
Well, just know that all of these little buttons, they all allow you to do different things. You can, you know, group and even do math in some of them. So there's a lot of really cool stuff in here that you can do. So if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend doing that. And trying to just see how it can benefit you. And if you have any, you know, questions, send them our way. We'll be happy to help.
Yeah, and to that point, if you guys do have any questions or would like kind of a tutorial on this, you can send an email to support@evisys.com. Same company you go to if you have, same email you go to if you have any questions in the system, but it's support@evisys.com. And Shannon, who's on the line, actually runs our training division here at Evisys, and she'll be able to walk you through some of this stuff. We also offer virtual consulting by the hour if you feel like you need more of like a business deep dive into your individual situation to talk about the GL and some of these features or anything else in accounting. Please let us know. We offer those 2 options. Thank you, Renee. I think there's so much in the new general ledger. It's hard to go through even if we had the whole webinar to go through it. So yeah, if you guys have any questions specifically, please let us know. Can we just pause really quick? I think there might be some questions out there. Shannon, would you mind letting us know if there's any questions on the line?
Yeah, we do have one. What is something that our users can do throughout the year that will help streamline year-end close?
That's a great question. And I think that's really the hardest spot to be in, where you want to do it like Shauna mentioned earlier, you want to do it, but you're just not sure where to start. So my recommendation is, and we provide some assistance here, we have a basic month-end close checklist that we, you know, reach out to us. We'll be happy to give it to you. And that can kind of give you some of the the high level things that we think are beneficial for you to have a successful close. Now, every business has their nuances and their differences. So it's not going to be a one size fit all kind of a checklist, but it will get you started. So the biggest thing I think is implementing that checklist. You need to know what you need to do and when you need to do it. So determining those things up front are going to give you the foundation of what you need to close. So some of those things will be like reconciling accounts receivable or tying that out. So what I do is I pull an accounts receivable aging report from Lou. I run my general ledger and I compare the totals. If they match, great. I don't need to do anything else. I have exactly what I need to have. I have my report, which details who owes me what money. And then I have my general ledger that says, yes, we balance. This is the right number. So just simple things like that. That's a check mark off your checklist. And Lou provides you an easy way to look at those two things, either, through the general ledger and that accounts receivable report or the financial statements as well. You can just pull those balances right off the balance sheet or the income statement and verify that they match. So matching those key accounts payable, accounts receivable, inventory, you have your inventory valuation, those sorts of things, making sure those all balance is really the first kind of step once you get your checklist underway, making sure you get those things taken care of. And then you can kind of just start adding on as things come up throughout the year to your checklist, saying, oh, okay, now I have something that is a little bit of a different transaction. So I better add it to my checklist so I can verify this, that, or the other, because now I know this is something a little bit different than other things I've got going on.
I think that's fantastic. We do have a checklist. We actually can include that in the webinar recording when we send it out tomorrow. So we'll attach a link to that checklist so that you guys can all grab it there. I have 3 other tips for you all. Not as an accountant, I am not an accountant. Just looking at it from a business perspective, but 3 things that you all should do. Ideally daily, if not weekly at bare minimum. It is manage your negative inventory. Fix your negative inventory. Make sure that you are correcting your point of sale over unders. So your cash drawer over unders, people are opening the drawer wrong. Make sure you're correcting those, doing journal entries for them, and get to the root cause of it. And then inventory adjustments, chemicals, products you're using in store for maintenance, things like that you don't account for. They're just business usage products. Make sure that you're doing those adjustments. So negative inventory, over unders, and inventory adjustments. Doing those 3 things regularly and having somebody who really wears the hat and champions that and is fully in charge of those things, that will help you a lot. It doesn't solve for close at the end of the month, but it does make chasing that stuff down a heck of a lot easier, because those little things add up to be big mountains, and they're really hard to find at the end of the month when you're trying to fix it.
Yeah, and just to add to that, that's actually one of the line items on our month-end close checklist is, check Lou's inventory quantity corrections to make sure there's no negatives. So we don't have a ton of inventory, but if you are someone that does, definitely do it on a more frequent basis and do it before the close happens. That's actually kind of part of our soft close that we do ahead of our full close to make sure that everything's posted in the right period. So definitely do those things more frequently, especially if you don't have a full-on accounting team. Just make that part of your daily, weekly process to do some of those verifications.
Speaking of that, Renee, not having a full accounting team, another thing that comes up often, it's a really sensitive subject, but a lot of companies just have one person on their accounting team. And I know a big rule in accounting is segregation of duties, and making sure that you're you're secure, your books are accurate, and usually that requires a couple of different eyes on your books. So how do people handle that when there is just one person handling accounting? I think we've all heard horror stories of fraud within companies and things like that. What would you suggest to our dealers that are in that scenario? How do they mitigate risk within their financials?
Sure. So if you're a small business owner and you have, maybe an office manager who does your bookkeeping, who's also your wife or something, or let's say for sake of argument that this is an employee unrelated to you that you have really doing all of your day-to-day bookkeeping stuff, looking at your bank, writing checks or making bill payments, that sort of stuff, collecting accounts receivable payments. You really don't want that person that's doing all these money transactions in your books. You don't want them to be the one that's reconciling your books. So if you only have one person, that makes it a little difficult. So my recommendation is, if you have one person, do the bank recons yourself, or at least review them. The bank recons, you can prevent a lot of issues in your books and records and prevent and mitigate fraud if you are looking at minimum at those bank reconciliation reports out of lieu. That's how you can really identify if something weird's going on, especially in your cash accounts. And that's kind of critical for any business to maintain their cash accounts and not have fraud happen. So it is difficult, but the best advice I can give anybody is just review the work. Review it and look through the general ledger like I just showed. Click through some transactions periodically to verify, okay, does this bill have an attachment? I'm not familiar with this vendor. Let me look at some of their bills. Just go through there, and Lou has image attachment options on accounts receivable transactions, accounts payable transactions, journal entries, bank deposits, all of the things. So whoever is doing your record keeping for your company should be attaching supporting documentation to all of those image upload options throughout Lou. That way you, at the end of the month, as the accountant or as the business owner, whomever you are, can easily access that without having to go to that person and or having to dig through banker boxes or files online or anything like that.
Totally. I think that's one of some of the magic sauce to being in the cloud is that you can attach those documents, and you can be in Canada on a ski trip at the end of the month and just pop in and double check some things and make sure everything looks good and go on your merry way, rather than having to go into the office to look through paperwork. It's all accessible right there. And I know, Renee, you have a really strict policy within our company that everything must have an attachment. And I know if you see something that doesn't, you're like, what's going on? Where's the attachment for this? So I think if you put those rules in place and audit, make sure that it's happening, it will make your life a lot easier regularly. When you're just trying to find something quickly and find an answer, you don't have to chase down the person that's putting in the records.
Yeah, or say you get an audit notice from the IRS or from a sales tax jurisdiction, that sort of thing. Be prepared and utilize Lou for that. That's what it's here for, is to help you be audit ready and help you do things faster. So utilize that for sure. It'll make a huge difference.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, those are all the questions I had for you. We have, I think, a minute or two left. Shannon, do we have any questions out there?
We don't. It sounds like you guys covered everything.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Renee. I think this conversation was really helpful. And even if the people on the line took one or two things out of it they're going to implement for their year-end close, I think it was well worth the time. So thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Again, if you have any questions or you need support or help, or maybe you're using QuickBooks right now and you want to move to Lou Integrated Accounting, please just email support@evassist.com. We will get back to you as quickly as we can with answers and kind of a path forward for you. And just a reminder, integrated accounting is available for free on our enterprise plan. So if you're on our pro plan and you want to move to enterprise, it's really easy. It's a click of a button. Send us an email and we can help you get that all sorted and help you get your accounting in there. That's it for today. We will see you again next month, and email to follow tomorrow with the recording and some really helpful attachments. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one. Bye, Renee.
Bye.